Hey there. So when I was planning on hiking the Colorado Trail, I was looking for some new rain pants. It was not quite as simple a task as you would think. What I was looking for was just a simple pant, no pockets, no zippers, and waterproof. That particular combination was not to be found. I did happen to find a pair that was pretty close to what I was looking for from a company called Dutchware gear. The issue was they were just too large for me. They were going to be like wearing a small balloon. I shifted gears and I decided to try to make a pair. So I found a pattern, ordered that, and then ordered all the supplies that I needed. The material that I used was a Xenon 0.9 Sil Poly. This stuff is super thin and light. It's also super slippery. These wound up to actually be a pretty simple project. I left all the zippers off, left all the pockets off. The nice thing about making your own pants was I was able to custom fit these for the most part. I added a little over an inch to the length, and the pattern calls for the top waist to have some excess cut off, and then it's rolled over quite a bit to allow for some elastic to be sewn in. I skipped all of that. I left all of the length at the waist, and then what I did was just folded it over for a small little pocket for some shot cord to use as a waist cinch. As I'm relatively new to sewing, I wouldn't say this stuff was difficult to sew. It just took some patience. It is pretty slick, and because it's so thin and light, it will have a tendency to kind of bunch up on you, so you've got to keep some tension on both the front and the rear as you're sewing through if possible. Other than that, the project went pretty well. Now, there were a couple little hiccups while I was sewing. The material kind of got bunched up, and I wound up sewing part of the seat to itself, which was a simple fix. Seam ripper pulled it right out, and then I just cut some fabric off and glued it on with some of the seam sealant. And that worked perfect. The sewing machine had a buttonhole adapter to make buttonholes. Honestly, I couldn't really understand how to use that, and I had looked it up. So what I did was I simply marked out the spot where the shot cord would exit the pant waist, and then I manually operated the machine to make the buttonhole stitch. That worked perfect as there was only one buttonhole to make. I did seam seal these pants. What I did was I opened the seam and applied some sealant between where the two pieces of material meet. This served to both seal that area and add some extra strength by bonding the material together. I also sealed both sides of the seam. This took a little time as it was a multi-stage process. The sealant that I used was Permatex silicone windshield and glass sealant. This stuff worked really well. I've used the make your own where you mix silicone with mineral spirits, and I've also used the Gear Aid Seam Grip Tint Sealant. Of all the three, I think the Permatex worked the best. It was the easiest to use. On a side note, I did not seal the waist or the hem at the bottom of the legs. I felt these areas didn't require it. I did add a small piece of Velcro with a little tab down at the bottom just to be able to cinch up the legs a little bit. One thing, I'm not sure if I would have liked it better if I changed it, but it might have been nice to have the bottom split so that I didn't have to take my shoes off when I'm putting them on. The benefit of having to take your shoes off is you don't get any mud and grime inside the pants. So I'm kind of conflicted about whether I would have changed that or not. Well, these pants, seam sealed and everything, the total pack out weight is 62 grams. They are super feather light. I've left links to everything that I used in the description. There's also a link to some pants that are pre-made by Dutchware gear. These are the ones that I was looking at. They were just a little too big for me. The waist goes from like a 32 inch to a 38 inch. It's a one size fits all. Those things would have just swallowed me. But if you're in that size range, I would say give those a try because they're made out of the same material and they have a pretty simple design as well. Well, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. Other than that, get out there and do some hiking.